Hi everybody, Sensei Katie back for our last session together. And I thought today, since you guys are already such cool scratch coders, I would show you some of my favorite tips and tricks for making your video games stand out and learning how to maybe even animate some of our characters. So the very first thing we're going to do is we are going to click on create and we're going to create a new project. So animating characters as Scratch is super important. It helps make your video games more interesting. You can make stories, music videos, all sorts of things out of them. So the very first thing I'm going to show you is how to make a character switch poses when you click a button. So I'm going to delete my cat sprite and we're going to go to the bottom right hand corner of our screen and I'm going to click on the cat head with a plus sign. Now, I want you guys to pick a character that is a person. It is important that when you drag over this character, they move. This means it's possible to make this character move, and that's really important because some characters won't have the costumes you need. So let's make sure our person has costumes, and I'll teach you about costumes in 1 second. So just make sure when you drag your mouse over your character, it moves. So try and pick one of the people. There's lots of people that move. So my person I'm going to pick is Casey. And I'm also going to pick a background just to keep it interesting. So my sprite's going to be playing basketball. But right now, it just looks like she's just blocking the ball. It doesn't look like she's moving around at all. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my yellow events and I'm going to drag in when the space key is pressed. Let's make her move when I press the space key. Now, if we go to these tabs up top, we've used code so far and we've used sounds, but we haven't really used costumes yet. So let's click on costumes and it's just right above all our colored code. It looks like a computer tab. It's called costumes. Let's use that. Now you can see my character has 4 costumes. So this means that she's coded to move in 4 different ways. So I can click on each one and I can see all these costumes that she has. So I'm going to go back to my code. It's really important that your sprite has all these costumes. If your sprite doesn't have these costumes, maybe go back and pick a character that does. So costumes are just all the different animations that are available for this character. So I think I want Casey to look like she's blocking the ball from someone. So you can note that all of these have different names as well. So the first Casey is Casey A, Casey B, Casey C, and then Casey D. This is important to kind of try and keep in our brains as we move on. So I'm going to go back to my code tab and I'm going to go to purple looks. And you can see there's a piece of code that says switch costume to, and if you click on the KCD, mine says KCD, yours will say something different. Click on KCD, that drop down arrow, you can see my A, B, C, D are all options. So I want Casey to start as A. So I'm going to drag in switch costume to Casey A. Now, if I added another switch costume right underneath this one, it would move too fast for us to see. We wouldn't even be able to see it. It would just skip right over it. So to prevent this from happening, I'm going to add a wait block in between. So it waits for just a little bit before it switches to the next costume. So now I'm going to go to orange control and I'm going to drag in wait 1 second. And I'm going to change 1 second to be 0.2. And let's see what that looks like. Now, after I have my white block, I'm going to go back into my purple looks and I'm going to drag in switch costume to Casey A and I'm going to change it to be Casey D. Now we can test it. If I click my space bar, you'll notice she switches costumes. And if you don't have a space bar on your computer, another thing that you can do on your tablet, I guess, you can drag in when the sprite's clicked or when the green flag's clicked. It doesn't really matter how we start this code. It just matters that she moves. So yeah, if you wanted to animate a game, you could do that. If you do, when the green flag's clicked, she'll just do it once. So another thing we can do is we can add a loop around all this code and make her repeat it a certain amount of times. So if I go to my orange control, I can either drag and repeat 10 or forever, depending on how long I want her to block the ball for. I'm going to drag and repeat 10, put it around all my code, and now she's going to move her arms 10 times. So let's see what happens. So yeah, she moves 10 times. I think I'm going to change my wait to be 1 second so we can see it better. And there we go, she's blocking them off. So that's a really cool way to have your characters look like they're moving on your screen. Another way we can do this is we can animate characters to look like they're walking. So if you want to keep Casey, you can, but I'm going to delete her just for an example. Now I'm going to go choose a sprite. We're going to add a new sprite to our story. So we're going to click on the cat head with the plus sign. Now I'm going to find the unicorn, and I want you guys to find the unicorn as well. And we're going to make sure we pick the one that says unicorn running. So I just searched unicorn and it came up, or you can go to animals. I'm going to change my backdrop just so you can see a little bit better. See my unicorn. Okay, now I want it to look like my unicorn is moving across the screen. So I want it to look like she's actually running as she's moving across the screen. So this is a really cool feature. If you're having players walk around in your game or anything like that, this is a really cool way to make it look like a legitimate real video game. So to do this, I'm going to go to yellow events and I'm going to drag in when the green flag's clicked because I want my animation to start when I click the green flag. Now, it's really important I pick a spot on my stage where I want my unicorn to start. So I'm going to pick any spot. I want my unicorn to start in this corner, so I'm going to drag her to the left corner of my screen. Now I'm going to go to blue motion, and I want her to start at this spot every single time I start my game over. That's really important. So pick the spot where you want it to start over every single time. Now I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to drag in the piece of code that says go to X, Y. Now, since I moved my character before I dragged in that code, I don't have to change the numbers. And your numbers are going to look a little bit different than mine, but that's okay. It just means she's in a different spot. Now, I have to decide how far I want my character to move across the screen. So it's going to take a lot of trial and error. It takes practice before you get the hang of how many steps and things like that. But the very first thing I need to do is go to orange control and add a repeat 10 loop underneath my blue code. Now I'm going to click repeat 50 times, and I think this might get my sprite all the way across my stage, but we might have to go back and fix it. So pick a number that you think is how big our stage is. Now, I wanted to repeat 50 times and not forever, because if it goes forever, she'll just go off the screen. She'll never come back. So once you have your repeat 50 underneath your go to XY, it's really important it's hooked underneath your XY. I'm going to go back to blue motion. And I'm going to drag in the very first piece of code that says move 10 steps and put it inside. Now, here comes the fun part where we do the animation. I'm going to go to my purple looks and I'm going to find a little piece of code that just says next costume. And I'm going to drag that underneath my blue move 10 steps. So this is saying as it moves, it's going to switch costumes. So I'll show you the costumes it's going to switch through. So it has a lot of costumes. It has 6 costumes. So it animates every single step. So let's see what happens if we just run it through next costume. It looks like our unicorn is actually running across the stage. And when I click the green flag, it should start in the bottom left corner, just like I coded it to. So that's another really cool way to amp up your video games that you make. Another really cool thing we can do is we can animate a character to look like they're talking. So let's say I wanted someone to narrate my story. If I wanted someone in the top corner to narrate, I'm going to add a new sprite, choose a sprite, and for an example, we're going to add the penguin. So let's go to our search bar, and if we just search PEN, there's penguin 2. We're going to add penguin 2, and it looks a little bit more cartoony, but it has more costumes, the costumes that we're going to use. So if you just search penguin 2 is what we want. And I'm going to move him in the corner, make him a little smaller. And he's going to narrate, and he's going to talk about my horse. Now, all I want to say, I want the code to switch costumes as he says something. So to do this, I'm going to go to my yellow events. I'm going to drag in when the green flag's clicked, and I'm going to drag in purple looks. But first, let's take a peek at our costumes to see which ones I'm going to use. So I'm going to go up to the top tabs, and I'm going to click on costumes. Now you'll see there's only one costume where his mouth's open and it looks like he's talking. All the other ones look like they're turned to the side. So I'm going to remember that penguin B is the one that makes it look like his mouth's moving, because it looks like it's open. I'm going to switch from A to B. So I'm going to go back to my code. I'm going to keep that in my brain. I'm going to try to remember that. Now, I'm going to go and drag in my purple looks. I'm going to click on, I'm going to drag in switch costume to penguin A. So instead of penguin D, I'm going to click on penguin A, and that's the one where his mouth's closed. Now I'm going to make it wait, because it's just like the other costumes where if you put it back to back, it goes too fast and then you can't see it. I'm going to go to my orange control, drag in, wait 1 second. I'm going to go back to my purple looks after that. So wait 1 second, then go to purple looks and drag in switch costume to penguin B, because that's one where he's talking. Now, to actually make our penguin say something, we're going to do something else. We're going to add a new chunk of code with words in it so it runs at the same time. To do this, I'm going to go to yellow events. I'm going to drag in when the green flag's clicked, and I'm going to go back to purple looks and drag in say hello for 2 seconds. So again, yellow events, when the green flag's clicked, and then go back to purple looks and drag in say hello for 2 seconds. Now, if you wanted to change the words that the penguin's going to say, you can click in your hello and you can delete it. And I think my penguin's going to say, where are you going? Now let's test this and let's see if it works. If I click my green flag, it looks like the penguin's mouth opens when he talks. If you want it, so I have multiple words in my that I have my penguin saying. It's saying multiple words. I want it to look like its mouth's actually moving. So to do that, I'm going to go to orange control, and I'm going to drag in repeat 10 and put it around my switch costumes. That way it's going to repeat it 10 times. So let's see if that's too much or not. Doesn't look like that was it. Let's try repeat a smaller number. Perfect. And I'm going to make it wait less seconds so it plays at the same time. So I'm going to make it wait 0.5 seconds. Well, let's see what that does. There we go. And now it looks like he's dripping. So another really cool thing we can do, we can actually draw our own animations. So if there's a sprite that you like and they don't have any animations or any costumes to them to animate, like our special ones, like our penguin or our unicorn, I can actually go and animate my own. So let's go to our sprites. Let's choose a sprite. And let's all go and choose the frog. So I'm going to search frog. And I'm just going to pick the cartoon frog, not the one that looks super real, just the cartoony one. So not frog 2, frog 1. Now, let's click on the frog's costumes. So let's check out its costumes. So we're on the code tab. Let's go to the top of all our code and let's click costumes. Now I'm going to show you guys how to actually draw different costumes. So the very first thing we need to do is we need to duplicate our frog. We want to copy it and change little things so it looks like it's moving. That's how you animate, is you copy each frame and you change little things to make it look like it's moving. So I think I want to make it look like its tongue sticking out. So to do this, I'm going to right click on my frog and I'm going to duplicate. If you can't right click, you can go to the bottom left corner. There's a cat head with a plus sign that says choose costume. And you can just choose the same frog again. So that's another way to get around duplicating. Now, I want it to look like its tongue's stretching out to catch a bug. So to do this, I'm going to leave my first frog alone. And I'm going to go on my second frog. Now you can see you can grab all the different parts of the frog. You can grab the different eyeballs, the body, the legs. And if you can't do this, go to the bottom where it says convert to vector and click on convert to vector. And that's going to let you pick all the little pieces. It's really important that you make sure you convert it. Now, what we can do is we can, once we can move all the little pieces, we can make it look like our frog's tongue is retracting back into his mouth. So I'm going to click on the tongue and you can see all these little blue points here. I'm just going to grab the middle one and I'm just going to shrink its tongue. Maybe to be silly, I'll change the eyeballs too. Maybe I'll move the eyeballs around a little bit to make it look like he's looking away. So to do that, I just click on the eyeballs and I rotate them. And if you wanted, you could even draw a little fly on here. So I'm going to click my paintbrush. I'm going to change my color to black. Grab my paintbrush and I'm just going to draw. I can change my paintbrush size. You can see up here is a little 10. And change that a little bit smaller. And I'm going to click right there. Now it looks like you caught a little fly. So now, once we have our tongue animated or whatever you want, even if you want to do the legs, you want to do whatever, go for it. Play around with it, make something silly. We can go to our code tab. So let's go back to our code. So no longer on costumes, we're back on code. Let's code it to make it look like it's sticking its tongue out. So I'm going to go to yellow events and I'm going to drag in when this sprite's clicked. So just like we did earlier, I'm just going to make it move when I click it. So when this sprite's clicked. So yellow events, when the sprite's clicked. Now I'm going to go to purple looks. And all I have to do is drag in the code that says next costume. And it's a little piece of purple code that says next costume. And it's the same as the other ones, next costume. And I want to make it wait. So I'm going to go to orange control, drag in wait 1 second. And then I'm going to go back to purple looks and drag in next costume. Now, when I click this sprite, it should look like it's catching a fly or his eyes are moving. So now we have our whole scene animated. So I hope you guys have so much fun animating all the games that you can make. Go ahead and explore Scratch. There's lots of games to play. There's lots of videos to watch. There's all sorts of things, and Scratch is free and you can do it at home. So you should definitely play and Scratch as much as you can. And I'm super happy that you guys are all coders now and you all can say that you've learned the language Scratch. It's been so much fun making these videos, and I hope to see you in Code Ninjas one day to play with some of our toys and have some fun. But until then, please send us your video games if you make any by yourself. And please send us anything cool that you see that we should try. Thanks so much. Bye.